This morning I got home from where I was at about 1:45 a.m. So I'm a little tired today. But it wasn't anything terrible. I was up in Selinsgrove at a 50th anniversary Mass for a couple that I knew from when I was there as my last assignment. And it was a wonderful evening. It just went a lot longer than I expected it to go. Before the Mass, the wife gave me a letter she had written to her husband on their 37th wedding anniversary. And in that letter, she had all these different dates that things happened. She knew the date and the time of their first date. She knew the date of their first kiss. She knew a lot of other dates that were on there. And it proves that women know dates better than guys know dates, because he had no idea what all those dates were. But in the letter she wrote, she said the following: "Over these past years, I know without a shadow of a doubt that if the Lord and the Holy Spirit and God the Father were not in our lives, we never would have survived." And then 13 years later, now they're celebrating 50 years. My friends, in all of our relationships, we can choose whether we're going to involve God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, or whether we're not going to involve Him. And maybe we don't think of that. Husbands and wives, do we think about involving God in that relationship? Brothers and sisters, do we think about that? Children and parents, do we think about that? Do we think about involving God in all that we do, in all our relationships? I wonder what would be different in all our relationships if somewhere in the back of our mind at least we consciously thought, I'm going to make sure God is a part of this relationship. Many times I, unfortunately or fortunately, have had the opportunity to counsel couples who are having difficulties. And a lot of times, the difficulty is how they speak to each other. How do we speak to each other in all our relationships? How did we speak to our parents before we came to Mass tonight? How did we speak to our brothers and sisters before we came to Mass tonight? How did we speak to our spouse before we came to Mass tonight? Maybe it was wonderful, maybe it wasn't so wonderful. If I involve God in my speech, in the things I say, then I'm going to speak a little bit differently. I say, well, there's no way I'm going to remember God in all my relationships and in everything I say. Well, there is a way. It just takes a little bit of effort. Just takes a little bit of effort. And perhaps at the beginning of the day, God, be a part of all that I say today. Be a part of everyone that I meet today. Every situation I find myself in today. The first reading said, Jeremiah, he's demoralizing the soldiers. Have we ever thought that when we speak to people in a certain way, it demoralizes people? We've heard it before that words can really harm somebody. But what's demoralizing? Demoralizing is like, just. So they throw Jeremiah into a pit, and then they say, you shouldn't have done that, and they pull him out of the pit. Maybe there's times in our lives when we feel like we're being thrown in a pit. And we wonder if there's anybody there to save us. Or maybe sometimes in our lives, we're the one throwing somebody else in the pit by the words we speak. When we consciously involve God in all our relationships, we're going to speak differently. We're going to act differently. The king changed his mind, and then Jeremiah was pulled out of the pit. How do we change? If we need to change, if we need to look at our relationships differently, the answer is in the psalm. Lord, come to my aid. Consciously, every day, Lord, come to my aid. But so many of us, myself included, we say that prayer to God when we are in the most dire of times. Lord, come to my aid. What if we said that every day, no matter what was happening? Lord, come to my aid today. Second reading said, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us rid ourselves of every burden and sin that clings to us, and persevere in running the race that lies before us while keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus. Running the race, keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus. You have to pay attention to everything going on. When you're running a race, you want to make sure you're not tripping over a rock or over a curb or whatever. But when we keep our eyes fixed on Jesus as we move through every day, things are going to be different. Our relationships will be different. And we might just find that we're able to speak a little bit better, that we're able to treat each other a little bit better. I have come to set the earth on fire, Jesus said, and how I wish it were already ablaze. The Lord wants to set us on fire. And then what does he say? I have come not for peace, but division. And then he talks about all the relationships that are not going to go well. Well, relationships don't go well because sometimes we don't agree with each other. But if we bring God into those relationships, then even if we don't agree, we're going to be able to deal with each other better. We don't have to be against each other. My friends, we can choose whether we're going to live each day and all our relationships just doing it on our own. Or we can choose somehow to put in the back of our mind that I want God to be present as I speak. I want God to be present in this friendship, in this relationship, in my family. Because when we do that, we just might find we speak and act a little bit different. The Lord wants to set us ablaze. May we take the chance tonight. May we allow the Lord to set us ablaze with his fire. And may we invite him into all our relationships, into all our actions, into all our words.